I let my sister live in my vacation home. She tried to sell it. My door alarm pinged and a stranger's voice drifted through my phone, bright and salesy, calling my living room a charming coastal blank slate. I pulled up a real estate listing and saw my sister Nina's name under motivated seller, priced 40% under market. I was 200 miles away. Her open house started in 40 minutes. The deed? In my name. Nina only had temporary permission to stay. If she signed anything today, I was staring at months of legal cleanup. I called. Voicemail. Then a text from Nina popped up. Don't come. I grabbed my keys anyway. Family, favor, fault lines. Let me back up before the candles, the flyers, and the strangers commenting on my cozy kitchen. I'm the oldest daughter, the reliable one who labels pantry jars and keeps 3 calendars. Nina is my little sister, gifted with charm and timing, perpetually between places. Her temporary couch surfing always had an asterisk. Just until the new job starts, just until the roommate drama cools down, just until the car insurance clears. The emergencies rotated, the pattern didn't. I played the family role I was trained for. Fixer, explainer, absorber. The house we're talking about is my quiet place. I bought it 4 years ago when it was a battered foreclosure with mildew in the corners and raccoon footprints in the attic insulation. On paper, it was a fixer-upper. In my chest, it was an apology to myself for waiting so long to want something that was only mine. I spent weekends scraping, sanding, and painting. I learned how to swap a garbage disposal without crying. I slept on an air mattress for 2 months while the floors cured, windows open to the ocean wind and the smell of cut pine. When I locked that front door the first time, it felt like a spine growing back. Nina's pitch came with the soft voice she uses for favor and the emoji that means I'm cute but serious. Just 2 months while I get on my feet. The temp contract is already lined up. I don't want to be a burden. She said all the right things, and for once, I wanted to believe her. I said yes, with conditions. I put everything in writing. A month-to-month license, not a lease. No subletting, no alterations, no extra keys. I sent it to her to sign. She sent back a selfie holding a pen like a prop. I insisted on an actual signature. She laughed, signed, and promised, "You won't even know I'm there." I knew within a week. First, it was an extra key. She claimed she lost the original for like 10 minutes, so she made a spare. Then my neighbor, Mrs. Kravitz, I swear that's not her name, but it fits, texted me a photo of a silver SUV idling in my driveway at midnight. "Is this your renter?" she asked. I corrected her. "My sister is staying temporarily." The next morning, 2 packages I hadn't ordered were propped against the door with her name spelled wrong. Inside were vanity lights and peel-and-stick backsplash tiles. "It's for content," Nina said when I called. "Just small upgrades. You'll thank me." It sounded like care. It functioned like control. Small upgrades turned into a reel on her Instagram, a before-after carousel of my living room with my rug rolled back and my armchair shoved into the hallway because the natural light deserves center stage. She tagged a local decor page. The caption was breezy, turning my place into a vibe. I commented once, "Please put my furniture back," and deleted it because my hand was shaking. That's the tells of a fawn response. Placate, minimize, avoid the blowback. The boundary line wobbled. I told myself to be the good sister, to keep the peace. I reminded myself that she'd be gone in 60 days. The licensing agreement was clear. I had proof. But proof feels flimsy when your name is being said at brunch tables you can't see. My neighbors started asking careful questions. "Are you renting now? Is the place on Airbnb?" I reassured everyone and then called Nina. "No more guests," I said. "No changes without approval. I mean it." She sighed like I'd ruined her day. "You're so intense. I'm taking care of your place." That's how gaslighting lands in families, reframing my boundary as hostility. I drove down one Saturday to check the smoke detectors and found my kitchen island wrapped in fake marble vinyl. A cluster of eucalyptus in a jar I didn't buy sat under a ring light. The extra bedroom had a clothing rack and a neon sign that said, "Let's make magic." Nina hugged me, vanilla perfume and apologies. "It's temporary," she said. "The content pays. I'm funneling eyes to your house. Free advertising." I told her my house wasn't a brand. She said everything was a brand if you were smart. On the drive back, I rehearsed firmer boundaries, the kind that sound adult on podcasts. I tightened my systems, set a mail hold so nothing critical could be fished from my box, added alerts to my credit cards, and set up a title monitoring service because I listened to too many horror
stories about deed fraud. It felt paranoid. It also felt like insurance against my guilt. Hypervigilance wears the costume of competence. Then the warning bells went from quiet to loud. The HOA emailed me a violation notice for landscaping alterations and unauthorized exterior decor. A pink flamingo planter and string lights had appeared on my porch like I'd aged 25 years and joined a tiki cult. The fine ticked up daily. I forwarded it to Nina with a simple, "Remove today." She texted back a thumbs up and a sparkle. The sparkle did not remove itself. I could feel the fault lines forming under our yes. On one side, my house, my name on the deed, the version of me that learned to be precise so nobody could pretend not to understand. On the other, Nina's weather system, where urgency justifies everything and boundaries are a vibe, not a rule. I didn't know yet that the word sell would enter her mouth. I only knew that every time my phone lit up with her name, my stomach tightened like a fist. Somatic tells my head kept trying to out-logic. I told myself 2 more weeks. I told myself to breathe. I told myself I could fix anything, as long as the door still locked. Quiet warnings become loud alarms. As the door closed behind my last visit, my phone started speaking a different language, codes and notices instead of emojis and sighs. The HOA fine doubled, then tripled, like a meter running while nobody was driving. My title alert pinged once at 2:13 a.m., a sterile email that said, "Activity detected regarding your parcel," as if my house had a pulse and it skipped. Mrs. Kravitz's husband called me by my full name, which he'd never done, to tell me a contractor was removing my porch light at dusk. Nina sent a story of string lights and wrote, "Mood." The mood wasn't romantic. It was theft with twinkle. I started narrating to myself in checklists, because checklists feel like control. Photograph the porch, call the HOA, confirm rule numbers, screenshot Nina's posts before she deletes them. The normal noises of my life, the kettle, the dryer, the elevator in my building, started sounding like alarms. That's the nervous system learning from impact. The space between what Nina said and what was happening widened into a canyon. She promised, no more guests. And then a bachelor party in linen shirts wandered through my kitchen on a live stream, toasting new beginnings. Quiet was gone. The warnings weren't whispers anymore. They were paperwork. Paper is where gaslighting dies. Red flags and paper trails. The first official slap came as an HOA notice in all caps. Landscaping violation. Exterior alterations without approval. The letter read like a parent scolding a teen who'd pierced her own ear. Pink flamingo, string lights, a macrame swing chair drilled into the eaves like we were launching a boho cafe. Daily fines. A deadline. An invitation to appeal that sounded more like, "Try me." I forwarded the email to Nina with a single sentence. "Remove everything today." She replied, "OMG, that's so dramatic. It's cute. Plus a daisy." That's minimization. Dress a violation in whimsy until the boundary looks ridiculous. I called. She didn't pick up. I sent a follow-up. "If it's not gone by 5 p.m., I'll hire removal and bill you." At 5:12 p.m., she posted a reel captioned, "We don't negotiate with boring." The flamingo now wore sunglasses. Then the invoices hit my inbox. 2 from Handy Harold for light exterior improvements, both auto-paid on my card because at some point she'd used my phone to check the Wi-Fi and Apple Pay remembered. I saw my name under authorized and felt the kind of dizzy you get right before you faint. I canceled the card, disputed the charges, and texted Nina. "You used my card." She texted back a string of exclamation marks and, "By mistake, I'll Venmo later," like money could backspace authority. My insurance emailed me next. Subject line, "Policy document request, potential sale." A representative had requested my declaration page, liability limits, and loss history for a pending transaction. I stared at the words pending transaction until the letters blurred. Cognitive dissonance is physical. You feel it in your jaw first. I called the number. A clerk explained that someone with my name had inquired as the seller's representative. I told her I was the owner and no sale was pending. She paused, then added my note to the file, her voice slow, like she was trying not to step on broken glass. Realtor postcards started showing up at my apartment addressed to current owner Nina. A glossy card from a guy named Chad smiled at me from a beach in loafers, promising off-market buyers and no contingencies. I held the card over the trash, then put it in a folder labeled evidence, because throwing it away felt like erasing a fingerprint. I drove back down for a surprise drop-in and found a stack of business cards on my entry table. Stagers, a photographer, a mobile notary. My kitchen island had a bowl of fake lemons, The smell of fresh linen sprayed the air like it could erase my name on the deed. That's staging, psychologically, manipulate senses to bend judgment. I called Nina and kept my voice calm. We need to talk. She said she was in the middle of a brand collab and could we not? Face to face, she was breezy. I'm improving your place. You're welcome. I pointed at the invoices, the HOA violations, the bowl of staged fruit pretending not to be plastic. This stops now. No more contractors, no more changes, no more buyers. There is no sale. She rolled her eyes. You're so negative. Look at the engagement. That night, at my kitchen table, I pulled up everything. Bank statements, title alerts, emails, her posts. I set up a mail hold so nothing important could be rerouted. I added fraud alerts to my credit. I paid for a title monitoring service with a name that sounded like a submarine. I made a spreadsheet with dates and screenshots because if I was going to scream, I wanted the scream to be organized. The first twist was subtle but loud to me. A soft pull on my credit from a mortgage broker 2 towns over. I hadn't applied for anything. I called the number. A receptionist confirmed my last 4 digits and said, "We're pre-qualifying for a cash-out refi on the property in," and said my street like she was tasting it. I said, "No, you're not," and asked for the file. She hesitated, then transferred me to someone who used the word client and meant not me. I put the call on speaker and recorded it on my old phone. Who requested the pre-qualification? I asked. We have a power of attorney on file, he said, like he was ordering lunch. My scalp prickled. Hyperarousal is your body tapping the brakes. Email me what you have, I said, and consider this notice that any authority you think you have is revoked. There was no authority to begin with. He bristled. We'll need that in writing. You'll have it in 10 minutes, I said, and texted Maya, a real estate attorney a friend had used in a nightmare sale. I wrote, emergency, sister, house, possible fraud. While I waited, I called my insurance back and put a password on my account. I called the HOA and requested copies of the violation photos for my records. I called my bank and added verbal passwords. I called a locksmith to schedule new smart locks that would log entries and exits. I walked my own heartbeat down from a sprint to a jog by making tasks into air. Maya called me back in under 5 minutes. Her voice was calm in a way mine wasn't. Tell me everything, she said, and I did. Nina's move-in, the license agreement, the flamingo, the invoices, the insurance request, the credit pull. She didn't gasp or scold. She asked for documents, timelines, and the exact phrasing of Nina's promises. We're going to shut the door before they wedge it open, she said, and we're going to build a file in case they already did. I sent her my folder labeled evidence. I added a new one, war. Soft pull becomes a sales pipeline. By morning, the soft pull wasn't a bump in the road. It was tracks laid straight to my front door. My title monitor pinged again. A preliminary title package requested. My parcel number typed neatly. My name misspelled the same way Nina's packages were. The email thread showed clockwork. Mortgage broker to title rep to mobile notary, notary to a Gmail that used my first and last name plus agent. I recognized that cadence. Nina didn't build systems. She borrowed confidence from people who did. Maya fired off a cease and desist to the broker and title company while I dictated a sworn statement revoking any purported authority. 10 minutes later, the title rep replied with a breezy, received with thanks, like I'd just sent a thank you note for a fruit basket. But the next email in the chain was worse. Per POA, proceed to order payoff statement. My mortgage had 0 balance. I'd paid it off. So payoff meant they were preparing to clear my title for a sale that didn't exist. In fraud, speed is strategy, confusion is cover. I watched the pipeline light up like runway lamps. A stager confirmed Tuesday window. A photographer asked, is the homeowner okay moving the sofa? A mobile notary offered evening availability at the seller's sister's convenience. Seller's sister. That phrase landed like a slap. In their story, I wasn't the owner. I was a prop. Maya's voice cut through my spin. Good. Let them move. The faster they move, the more obvious the fraud. Document everything. I set another coffee to brew and opened a new tab. Recorder on, screenshot stacking, my house slipping from my hands on paper long before anyone touched the lock. The fake ownership narrative. The narrative started small, like all lies do, just big enough to pass at a barbecue. It weaponized plausibility. Mrs. Kravitz texted me after a neighborhood walk. Nina says you gifted her the house as thanks for helping you during your surgery. Congratulations. I stared at the words until my own medical history flashed in my mind like a reel. A laparoscopic procedure 2 years ago, a one-night hospital stay, me Ubering home with a heating pad and a bag of crackers, Nina texting a heart and not showing up. I didn't gift her anything, I typed back. I own the house. Mrs. Kravitz's typing bubble blinked, then disappeared. The silence from people who want to believe the easier version is a sound I'll never forget. Online, the lie had better lighting. I found an Instagram carousel with my coffee table shoved against the wall, my throw blanket refolded like a stage prop. The caption read, "Before and after of my coastal cottage." She was a tired little darling until I breathed new life into her. Proof you don't need to be rich to own, just scrappy and smart. In slide 4, my deeds sat blurred in the background like set dressing, as if paper was aesthetic, not law. Comments poured in. Goals. Manifesting this. Women supporting women. She reposted those. She didn't repost mine. A polite, "Please correct. You are a temporary licensee," which she deleted in less than a minute. I screenshotted the deletion. Then a local Facebook group, it's always a Facebook group, shared a pocket listing. The photo was my front porch without the flamingo, haloed by sunset. Off-market gem, owner relocating, motivated to close fast. DM Chad for details. The description listed my square footage, my lot size, the exact upgrades I'd done with my own tired hands. A stranger commented, "Any issues with the roof?" And Chad replied, "Sellers updated, no known leaks." My roof had been tarped in a storm last winter. Patched, sure, but the phrasing "no known leaks" read like a shrug tossed into a contract. My phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. "Hi, is this Lily?" the voice asked. Smooth, confident, a little impatient. "Speaking," I said. "This is Chad. I'm working with your sister, our cooperative seller. She said you're aligned on a quick cash deal. I've got buyers ready to waive inspections if we can close within 2 weeks." I breathed deliberately. "I'm the owner," I said, "and there is no deal." He chuckled like I'd told a joke at my own expense. "Totally understand the family dynamics. The buyers are strong. We'll close with or without you. It'll be easier for everyone if you sign." I put him on speaker and hit record. "Send me your listing agreement," I said, "and the power of attorney you think you have." He sighed. "We're not on MLS. It's a private placement. The paperwork's in process." "Great," I said. "Email it to me. This is your notice to cease all representation and promotion of my property. Any authority you think exists is revoked and was never granted." He pivoted. "Let's not get litigious. Your sister is trying to improve your position." "My position is owner," I said, and hung up. Maya coached me to keep the line steady. Collect, don't engage. But in the meantime, the story metastasized. Nina posted a TikTok explaining how I bought my first house at 28. A lip-synced audio under a montage of my floors, my view, my hands in old photos pulling up carpet tacks. She framed it as a gift from a generous sister after years of sacrifice. In a DM to a neighbor, she wrote that she'd taken over payments because Lily couldn't keep up. That's reputation laundering. Borrow my image to shield her story. I pulled my credit report and laughed once. Ugly, short, at the 0 mortgage balance. The second twist landed as an email from a title assistant with a cheerful subject. "Prelim ready, needs seller's ID." Attached, a preliminary title report with my parcel, my legal description, and a seller. Nina, my last name. Attorney in fact for Lily, my last name. Per attached POA. Attached POA, a PDF with a notary stamp from a county 2 hours inland. My signature slanted like someone guessing how my hand might move. The dates didn't line up with anything resembling reality. The notary's commission number didn't match the state database. The language was a cut and paste from some template that forgot to change the pronouns in one clause. You could see his in a paragraph about my her. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I called Maya. "Forwarded," I said, voice flat. She read while I held the phone to my ear and stared at my own walls like they could reassure me. "Good," she said finally. "This is sloppy. We'll make it embarrassing." She drafted a revocation, notarized and recorded a notice of interest on the property, and fired a cease and desist straight to the title officer's inbox with the forged POA attached, highlighted in neon. "Also," she said, Call the notary listed and ask for confirmation. I did. The notary picked up with a weary, I don't know who keeps using my stamp, but it isn't me. She'd already filed a report. Her commission had been cloned. I thanked her, got her statement, and added it to the folder named War, which now had subfolders. Procedure is
How you grieve without collapsing. Across town, unaware of the danger, or pretending to be, Nina filmed another story. Open house soon, she chirped at the camera, flipping a candle lid. Motivated seller. Cash talks. She panned over my mantle where my graduation photo used to sit, and now there was a framed quote about hustle. The comments hyped her. A few asked about me. She replied with a sad face emoji. We're keeping it private. Privacy gets misused as camouflage when accountability knocks. I wasn't. I emailed Chad's broker, attaching the forged POA, our recorded notices, and a line that read, "Continuing to market my property will expose your firm to liability." I sent a complaint draft to the real estate board, saved but unsent, like a bullet I'd fire later. I printed emails, highlighted timestamps, and arranged them chronologically on my dining table until the story looked like what it was, a theft that smiled for the camera. Order calms panic. When I finally called Nina, I didn't yell. "You cannot sell my house," I said. "You cannot pretend to own it. Stop." She went silent for a beat, then leaned into a tone I'd heard since we were kids. "You gave it to me," she said softly, like if she said it tenderly enough, it would become true. "You said I deserved stability." "I said you could stay for 2 months," I replied. "I said I love you. Love is not a deed transfer," she scoffed. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said, "I'm being the owner." And I hung up, because sometimes the only boundary that holds is the click at the end of a call. Transition. Quiet documentation becomes a legal strategy. By then, my screenshots weren't just a diary, they were a map. I stopped doom scrolling and started labeling. Every reel became Exhibit A with a timestamp. Every postcard, a breadcrumb. I wasn't saving chaos anymore. I was building a chain of custody. I wrote a timeline in plain language, what I saw, what I did, who replied, when, and read it out loud to hear the gaps. Where there was a gap, I made a call. Where there was a shrug, I asked for a written statement. I moved from instinct to procedure. Maya coached me on cadence. Don't argue in DMs, capture them. Don't threaten, notice, and revoke. Don't broadcast, record, and escalate. She had me sign a sworn declaration revoking any purported power of attorney and authorizing her to act on my behalf with title, brokerages, and the HOA. We talked about signal versus noise. A flamingo planter is noise. A forged POA is signal. A smear post is noise. A purchase agreement is signal. It was cognitive reframing in legal form. I started sleeping with my laptop closed and my printer humming like a white noise machine for sanity. The plan felt cold on purpose. Love speaks in maybes. The law requires nouns. I drew a line on a legal pad and wrote on one side, sister, on the other, seller, broker, title, notary. Nina belonged to the first column emotionally and the second practically. That's when my fear softened into something sharper. If they wanted paperwork, I would give them a wall of it. If they wanted to move fast, I would let them sprint into a net. Detachment isn't cruelty, it's a trauma boundary. Lawyer up, building the trap. Maya's first move was precision. She drafted cease and desist that read like scalpel cuts. To Nina, to Chad, to his managing broker, to the title officer, to the mortgage shop that ran my credit. Each letter referenced the parcel number, the recorded deed, the license agreement, the forged POA, and my recorded revocation. Each one had a line that made me exhale. Owner will pursue civil and criminal remedies. There was no emoji for that. She filed a notarized revocation of any purported authority and recorded a notice of interest with the county. It was bureaucratic armor, boring to look at and impossible to ignore. She explained it to me in simple terms. If they try to record anything, the clerk will see our filings first. It slows them, flags them, and makes the title company nervous. Nervous is good. We synchronized our watches, figuratively, but it felt like a heist movie. I scheduled installation for smart locks that logged every entry and exit, and I set up interior cameras focused only on common areas, posted the required notice per state law, and disabled motion audio so I wouldn't hear strangers call my kitchen cute. I notified the HOA in writing that any exterior changes were unauthorized and that only correspondence addressed to me should be considered valid.
I looped in a property manager I trusted, asked him to be my eyes, and gave him a one-page directive. Preserve. Don't provoke. Maya called the police non-emergency line and asked about a liaison for real estate fraud. She got me a name and a case intake email and told me exactly what to send. My deed, the license, the forged POA, the title emails, and a one-paragraph summary that used the word forgery twice and the word sister not at all. Don't make them choose empathy, she said. Make them choose the statute. Then she presented the part that tasted like metal in my mouth. We were going to let the open house happen. Not to be nice, strategic exposure. Right now, everything is in DMs and drafts, she said. We need their conduct in public. We serve them where they commit the act. The plan was choreographed. I would arrive early and quietly, call the liaison to be on standby, and walk in when buyers were present so there'd be witnesses. I would ask, calmly, to see the listing agreement and proof of authority. The process server would be 2 minutes behind me with the stack. Cease and desist acknowledgements, a notice of trespass, and a pre-drafted demand to preserve all marketing materials. If Chad or Nina continued after service, the liaison would advise them that further conduct might tip into criminal. My job was to keep my voice level and my hands visible. Maya repeated that like it was a spell. Don't touch a sign, don't raise your volume, don't block a doorway. We are the adults in the room, and adults win on paper. She also told me what to feel, which was oddly helpful. You will feel humiliated. That's normal. Do not correct the feeling. Just keep moving. That's distress tolerance, not denial. I prepared like I was taking an exam. I refused to fail. I printed 2 sets of everything. I put copies in a slim folder and backed up the rest to 3 places. Cloud, encrypted drive, email to myself with the subject line, in case. I took photos of the house as I left it the last time. The art, the rug alignment, the
Contents of the cabinets like a weird museum catalog. I snapped serial numbers on the locks and the thermostat to show chain of custody. I turned off the gas to the fireplace because I didn't trust scented candles plus strangers. I limited the utilities to baseline service so a party would be inconvenient but not dangerous. The emotional prep hit harder. I wrote a letter to my mother I didn't send, explaining in clean, calm sentences why kindness without a boundary is just a door propped open for a storm. I put it in the evidence folder because by then everything was evidence, even my ache. I practiced saying one sentence in the mirror. I am the owner, and you do not have authority. I said it until my face stopped flinching. Before the day, small victories landed like pebbles. The title officer replied that the file was paused pending clarification. The mortgage broker wrote that they had ceased processing and would close the inquiry. Chad's managing broker acknowledged receipt of our letter and asked for a good faith call. Maya dialed in with me and spoke in a tone that could freeze lava. Your agent is representing a property without a valid listing and under a forged authority instrument. Cease immediately. The broker said words like misunderstanding and miscommunication. Maya said words like liability and disciplinary board. The call ended with an email memorializing what he'd promised. Stop marketing, remove posts, notify all leads that the property was not for sale. Predictably, Chad didn't stop. He got slippery. The posts vanished from his feed but reappeared as client stories and testimonials. Nina reposted those with a caption about haters. We captured every pixel. Maya smiled when I texted her the screenshots. Good, she wrote. They're building our case in public. I slept a little the night before the open house. Heavier than I expected, like my body trusted a plan even if my heart didn't. In the morning, I put on plain clothes, tied my hair back, and left my jewelry in the dish. I wanted to look like any woman with a clipboard, not the woman about to explain ownership to her sister. I checked my folder, my charger, my driver's license. I looked around my apartment, a place that suddenly felt like a hotel room. Impersonal, temporary, a staging area. Then I locked my door, got in my car, and drove toward the coast with a feeling that sat between grief and resolve, closer to resolve. I wasn't going to win a debate. I was going to serve the truth on paper and let it do its job. Strategy shifts from defense to controlled confrontation. By the time the coastline came into view, I wasn't a sister with hurt feelings. I was a plaintiff with a plan. Defense had been about stopping leaks. Now I wanted evidence to pour straight into my bucket. I rehearsed the sequence.
Park out of sight. Call the liaison. Enter calmly. Ask for the listing agreement. Ask who owns the property. Ask for authority. Say my line, I am the owner, and you do not have authority. Then step aside for service. I practiced my face in the rearview mirror at a red light, smoothing it into neutral. My hands wanted to clench. I made them hold the folder instead. Maya texted me our checklist like a flight manifest. Calm tone, no touching signage, no raising voice, no blocking door, request documents, identify witnesses, record time, call liaison if escalation, await service, acknowledge service received by them, stand down. It read like choreography you only need when someone plans to step on your feet. I parked 2 blocks away under a jacaranda, dropping purple confetti onto my windshield and dialed the liaison. We're live, I said. He confirmed he was 10 minutes out if needed. 10 minutes felt both far and close. As I walked, I could smell my own house, the eucalyptus she loved, the ocean, the faint ghost of paint that never leaves trim. My heart kicked up when I saw balloons tied to my mailbox. Open house, they bobbed, cheerful and treacherous. I took a photo from the sidewalk, time-stamped it, and slid my phone into my back pocket. I had one job. Move like this was mine, because it was. The open house sting. The front door stood open, and my house was breathing strangers. A couple in matching sandals drifted across my hardwoods, murmuring about light. A man in a blazer who clearly hated sand shook hands in my entry. The candles were working overtime, vanilla frosting fighting salt air, and a playlist of acoustic covers made everything sound apologetic. Atmospheric sell belonging. They also blur consent. On the console where my keys bowl used to sit, a stack of glossy flyers waited, each one shouting my square footage like a brag. Nina was in uniform, hair shiny, lashes for days, a linen jumpsuit that whispered homeowner. She laughed too brightly and waved at someone near the kitchen, then turned and saw me. For a split second, her face went honest, startled, guilty, 7 years old caught with scissors, and then the mask
Slid back. Lily, she said, too loud. You made it. She opened her arms like this was a reunion and not a boundary. I didn't hug her. Where's your listing agreement? I asked, quiet enough that only the couple by the window glanced over. She blinked. We're doing a private sale, she said. Chad's handling it. Chad appeared like a magician on cue, palm already out for a handshake I didn't take. Great to see you, he said. We've got serious interest. If we can get you to sign a seller's disclosure, we can wrap this up clean. I breathed and pulled my line into place. I am the owner, I said. You do not have authority to market or sell this property. Show me your listing agreement and the power of attorney you think you have. Naming reality out loud is how you break the trance. For a heartbeat, all the acoustic guitars stopped in my head. Chad's smile cooled. Let's step outside, he said. No, I replied. We'll do this here. He slid a folder from his messenger bag and flipped, buying time. We've got a purchase agreement pending with a strong buyer, he said, like that fact could outrun law. We're just coordinating signatures. He produced a photocopy of the fake POA, edges crooked, my not signature staring up at me like a dare. This isn't valid, I said. It's been revoked and reported. You've been noticed. I pulled out Maya's letter and set it beside his paper like a mirror showing him his own face. A woman near the island. Later, I learned she was Jacob's aunt. Leaned to read. Wait, she said. Who owns this? I do, I answered, meeting her eyes. My name is on the deed. Nina laughed, brittle. She's being dramatic. We're family. This is a misunderstanding, and she's making it weird. That sentence was her whole life in one line. Maya walked in then, her flat silent on my floors, with the process server just behind her, carrying a manila stack like a wedding cake. Good morning, Maya said, voice easy, almost light. Chad? Nina? Service for you. The server did his practice dance. Documents extended, name stated, time noted. You've been served, he said, once to each, and he might as well have said, reality has entered the chat. Chad's jaw tightened. This is a civil matter, he said to the room, to the air, to himself. No need to make a scene. Great, Maya said, then stop making one. She nodded at me.
I turned to the handful of buyers who were now clearly wishing they were anywhere else. "There is no valid listing," I said, steady. "Any offers made will not be honored because there is no authority to sell. Please do not provide personal information to anyone here in relation to purchasing this property," someone muttered. Yikes. Someone else snapped a photo. I heard the distant click of my front camera logging faces I'd never invited. Nina's voice rose. "You told me I could have it," she insisted, heat finally showing. "You said." "I said 2 months," I cut in. "I said I love you. Love is not a deed transfer." Her eyes glassed and sharpened at the same time. "You're cruel," she hissed. "You have 2 houses." "I have 1 house," I said, "and you are in it." The liaison arrived like a punctuation mark. Calm posture, badge visible, voice neutral. "Afternoon," he said. "I'm told we've got a dispute about a property being marketed for sale." Maya stepped half forward, offered her card, summarized in 6 clean sentences. "Owner present, no authority, prior notices served, forged instrument involved, request to stop solicitation, warn about trespass." The officer nodded, then looked at Chad. "If you continue after notice, you may be trespassing. I'm not here to referee contracts. I am here to keep the peace." Chad's eyes were calculating his exit. "We're done," he said, raising both palms like a surrender he could spin later. He turned to the small flock of buyers. "We're going to reschedule this showing." I could feel the room exhale. People drifted toward the door with that embarrassed half-smile strangers wear when they stumble into family business. The aunt squeezed my arm as she passed. "Good for you," she whispered, and I felt the tiniest sliver of oxygen slide back into my lungs. And then the third twist hit the table like a dropped glass. A man with a neat haircut and a folder. Jacob stepped up and said, bewildered and careful, "I already signed." He slid out a purchase agreement with a fake POA attached and a bold number circled, earnest money wired, inspection waived. He looked at me like I was the one moving the ground under his feet. "I thought I was helping," he said. "They told me it was a family transfer." I swallowed. "You were misled," I said, and the words tasted like metal and relief. "We're putting the file on hold now." I took a photo of the first page, noting the date, the initials that weren't mine, the speed of a lie when it thinks it's winning. Maya's pen clicked. The server noted the new document. The liaison shifted his weight, ready if anyone decided to be brave.
In the wrong direction. Nina's face crumpled and hardened in waves. "You're ruining this," she said to me, not softly now. "You always ruin things when I'm finally close." I shook my head. "I'm closing the door you broke open." She looked past me, scanning for sympathy in a room that had run out of it. Chad avoided her eyes, already drafting his version of today in his head. When the last buyer stepped outside, the house felt like a stage after curtain. Lights hot, air stale, set pieces suddenly cheap. I gathered the flyers into a stack with 2 fingers and handed them to Maya for the evidence bag. The vanilla candles burned low, stubbornly sweet. I blew one out. The smoke curled up and away, and for the first time in days, so did I. A fake agreement becomes a real legal threat. Jacob's folder wasn't just paper, it was momentum with my address on it. The forged POA had graduated from a stunt to ink on a contract with money wired and dates ticking. Maya's eyes skimmed the agreement, and I watched her posture change from calm to locked in. "This isn't theoretical anymore," she said under her breath. "They've created reliance. That buyer's going to push." I felt something cold settle under my sternum. Reliance meant leverage. Leverage meant lawyers. The liaison took a photo for his report. The process server logged the document. I texted the title officer, "Hold file." Signed agreement surfaced. Forged POA attached. The reply came fast. "Putting on immediate hold." General counsel looped. General counsel. 2 words you never want tangled with your house. Nina hovered near the hallway, whispering at me like we could walk this back if I smiled. "Just bless it," she said. "He's nice. He's cash. We'll all win." I didn't answer. Winning wasn't a word I could use in that room. Maya leaned close. "We close their lanes now. Title,
broker, buyer. We stopped the recording. Then we unpacked damages. I nodded like my head belonged to someone else. This wasn't just my sister playing homeowner. This was a machine she'd fed, and it had teeth. As the last looky-loo slipped out, the candles guttered. My house felt smaller, like the walls had leaned in to listen. I locked eyes with Jacob across the room. "We'll talk," I said quietly. "I'll show you everything." He looked relieved, then angry, then embarrassed. All of it made sense. All of it meant work.
Try-fail cycle, damage control. The first calls went to the title company. Maya conference-dialed their general counsel while I forwarded the fake POA, my revocation, the cease and desists, and a bare-bones timeline. "We're freezing this file," counsel said. "Any disbursements?" Maya asked. "None," she replied, "but the buyer's deposited earnest money. He'll scream." "He can scream," Maya said. "He should scream at the people who lied." Next, we called Jacob. He answered on speaker, his voice tight with controlled panic. "I wired 10 grand, he said. "I have movers penciled. I took time off work." I swallowed the apology on my tongue and gave him facts. "I'm the owner. There is no valid authority. You were misled with a forged power of attorney. I'm sending you documents right now." He was quiet then. "I didn't want to do inspections. Chad said it would make me competitive." "He wanted speed," Maya said. "Speed hides fraud." We met at a coffee shop 10 blocks away, neutral ground with the hiss of milk steam to keep my nerves from echoing. I brought the folder. He brought his wire receipt and a look that was halfway between fury and humiliation. I laid out the paper trail like a dealer. Deed, license agreement, my recorded notice, the forged POA, the open house service. He tracked the highlights, the dates, the mismatched notary. When he reached the photo of my deed, his jaw unclenched. "Okay," he said. "I get it." Then he rubbed his forehead. "I'm out the inspection money, the wire fee, and I told my landlord I'm leaving." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it from a place that wasn't responsible, but was human. "I'll write a statement for your landlord if you need leverage to rescind, and you should demand your earnest money back immediately." Maya slid a card. "You'll also file a complaint against the agent and the brokerage," she said. "I'll email you the form." Back at the house, the social fallout detonated. Chad posted a story. "Beware of sellers' family interference. We protect our buyers from chaos." He blurred my address, but not enough that anyone local couldn't place it. Comments stacked. Amateur diagnoses, accusations about greedy siblings, and a handful of bored trolls. I didn't clap back. I archived everything and sent it to Maya. She drafted a preservation demand to the brokerage. Do not delete any marketing, videos, or communications. Then she filed a complaint with the state real estate board, attaching screenshots and the forged POA. Nina's meltdown went public fast. She cried on live, said family gift 3 times, called me controlling, and told a story about my imaginary debt I couldn't pay. Mutuals chimed in with heart emojis and stay strong. Privately, a few of them forwarded me her messages, complete with her coaching them on what to comment. One wrote, "I'm sorry, I didn't know." I typed back, "Please stop engaging. It's hurting both of us." I tried to claim damages with my insurer for the staging mess. Holes from a swing chair, cabinet paint scratched, floors scuffed from moving my furniture. The adjuster sounded polite and impenetrable. "We don't cover cosmetic changes by permitted occupants," he said. "She wasn't permitted to renovate," I argued. "It's still not vandalism." Denied. I hung up and stood in my living room, looking at a constellation of tiny holes and feeling like each one was a point where my spine had been pinned. The buyer's anger found me anyway. Jacob texted, "If I don't get my money in 3 days, I'll sue you." Maya answered him gently but firmly on my behalf. "Your remedy is with the brokerage and the signatory who misrepresented authority. We're happy to provide sworn statements." He simmered for a day, then pivoted. He filed a complaint with the board and CC'd us. He called Chad's broker and insisted on immediate release of funds. He got it in writing. Wire to be returned within 48 hours. That small win didn't feel like much when my phone kept lighting up with Nina's version. She messaged me paragraphs about how I owed her for years I carried mom, about how I'd promised stability, about how I was gatekeeping generational wealth. I wrote one reply and only one. All communication through counsel. It felt cold. It was necessary. I shifted from fires to ash piles.
I called the HOA, sent them the service documents, and requested temporary leniency on the fines while we sorted occupancy. They reversed the violation fees once I provided proof that changes were unauthorized, but still stuck me with a special assessment that predated this mess. Payable in 30 days. Of course. The credit bureau disputes were their own maze. The soft mortgage inquiry couldn't be removed, but the note could be added. Unauthorized inquiry linked to attempted fraud. I filed it with all 3 bureaus and set long-term fraud alerts. I changed every password I owned twice. I added a secret phrase to my bank that only my grandmother would have guessed. My low point crept up at
Midnight. The house was quiet for the first time in days. The candles were gone, the playlist was off. I could hear the ocean through the cracked window. My own kitchen looked used by someone I didn't like. The rug was a little crooked. A glass I didn't own sat in the sink. I stood in the dark holding a trash bag and felt like a guest in my own story. I wanted to throw everything out and start over. I wanted to keep every item as evidence. I did neither. I took pictures, I made tea. I lay on the floor and put my hand on the wood I'd sanded and finished myself, and I cried without sound because sound felt like giving the night more weight. Grief metabolizes better when you give it a container. The next morning, the practical world rewarded paperwork. Jacob texted, "Funds released. Filing complaint now." He attached a receipt from the brokerage confirming the wire back. Then he sent a screenshot of his board complaint. Misrepresentation, forged instrument, failure to disclose. I replied, "I'll provide a witness statement." He wrote, "Thank you." And for the first time since I'd met him, I heard relief. Chad tried one more shot, a long post about misunderstood family arrangements and jealous relatives, paired with a smiling selfie at another listing. The comments weren't as kind this time. A few people asked about POAs. One linked the statute. Someone else posted, "The owner showed up. You kept going." The dog pile that had started on me turned, even if just a little. I didn't celebrate. I screenshotted. I saved. I kept moving.
From reactive cleanup to proactive accountability. Cleanup had kept me busy. Accountability would keep me sane. I was done waiting for the next mess. I wanted to set dominoes in a row and watch them fall the right way. Viral isn't luck. It's clarity under pressure. I opened a new folder called Consequences and started with the simplest move. Reports. Not rage posts, not subtweets. Forms with case numbers. I drafted summaries in clean language that didn't read like I needed comfort. Dates, times, names, documents attached. I wasn't asking anyone to take sides. I was handing them their jobs. Maya nudged me past fear into procedure. "Paper beats vibes," she said. So I wrote the report language that hates adjectives. I stacked my evidence with labels an auditor would respect. I listed witnesses and who could corroborate what. I added the notary statement and the title officer's pause email. I made a table, what happened, what statute it might touch, where to send it. Then I widened the circle. Not just stop this, document who enabled it. Broker, board, police, credit bureaus, HOA, insurance, property manager. I wanted each system to have a piece of the truth before anyone tried another story. When I finished, the apartment felt different. My shoulders dropped. I wasn't trying to win a comment section. I was handing a timeline to people who speak in orders and findings. It felt cold. It felt right. I shut the laptop and slept for 3 hours straight, which might as well have been a week. Consequences begin. Paper cuts into wounds. The forgery report hit the police portal first. I attached the forged POA, my revocation, the title emails, and a one-page summary that used words like misrepresentation and instrument. I half expected my submission to vanish into a void. Instead, a detective emailed back that afternoon. Case number issued, documents received, follow-up interview scheduled. Seeing numbers next to my hurt made the room tilt back into place. Next, I filed the Bar Association complaint against Chad. Not his license. That would be the real estate board, but his conduct in drafting or trafficking in a forged authority instrument. Maya helped me thread the needle so it wasn't a tantrum, it was a timeline. I included his call where he threatened to close with or without you, the open house service, the buyer's contract with the fake POA attached. I clicked submit and pictured a dull conference room where someone would read my file under fluorescent lights. Good.
Let the fluorescent lights do their work. The real estate board complaint followed. State statute cites, screenshots, the pocket listing, the deleted posts, the preservation demand. I added Jacob's complaint number and invited them to link our cases. Within a day, I got a reply. Acknowledged, investigator assigned, do not delete any communications. I'd already archived everything, but reading that felt like a hand at my back. The HOA finally stopped treating me like a delinquent teenager. After I sent them the service documents and the fraud report number, they reversed the violation fines. Relief cracked through. Then the special assessment memo landed like a fresh bruise. The assessment predated this chaos. We can't waive it, the manager said. It's for the seawall. I paid it online with a sigh that felt like a tax on being the responsible one. I pulled my credit again. 2 soft inquiries sat like smudges I couldn't wipe. I filed disputes anyway and added a fraud statement that would make any loan officer's appetite disappear. Then I put a freeze on all 3 bureaus. I texted Maya, I live in 2007 now, and she texted back a thumbs up and a link to a password manager. Family, of course, didn't wait for due process. The group chat lit up like a pinball machine. Mom opened with, "It's just a house." My thumbs hovered over the screen. I typed and deleted 3 times, then sent, "It's my house. All legal communication goes through Maya." My brother chimed in with a shrug emoji and, "We didn't need lawyers when Dad was alive." My sister-in-law wrote privately, "I'm proud of you. Stay steady." I muted the chat for a week. Peace is an app setting sometimes. I served Nina with a 30-day notice to quit, drafted exactly to state law. Maya insisted we hire a process server, not rely on text. 2 copies were posted and mailed. I felt mean, then righteous, then nothing. She responded with a barrage of voice notes about tenant rights and retaliation. Then she filed a harassment claim at the police station, claiming I'd threatened her with homelessness and stalked her at the open house. The liaison called me with a voice that said he'd seen worse. "We have your timeline," he said. "We have the service video. We're closing her claim as unfounded." Nina doubled down publicly. She posted a screenshot of the notice with my name blacked out poorly. Her caption, "My own sister wants me on the street. After everything." Her followers performed outrage.
One offered a lawyer. Another suggested squatter protections. My DMs filled with strangers telling me I'd regret this when Mom was gone. I archived the messages and brewed tea. Strangers were not invited to arbitrate my boundaries. Consequences have a boring face. The board emailed that Chad was placed on temporary suspension pending investigation. The brokerage sent a carefully worded letter encouraging a mutually agreeable resolution and proposing mediation. Maya replied, "Declined. Cease your agent's activity. Preserve evidence." The title company's general counsel sent a formal apology for processing the forged POA and confirmed the file was closed. They offered to notify other local offices as a courtesy. I took it. Justice often looks like admin. Money bled in stupid ways. The special assessment, the locksmith invoices, the video doorbell subscription upgrade for longer footage retention, the property manager's emergency rate to walk through the house twice a week. None of it bankrupted me. All of it felt like paper cuts in the same place. I started packing a small box every visit. My grandmother's bowl, the ceramic bird I bought after a bad breakup, the book with my notes in the margins. It wasn't fear, it was control. If a stranger touched my favorite things, I'd have to unlearn the texture. At night, my phone lit with late apologies that weren't apologies. Mom left a voicemail in a soft voice she used when things went sideways in the past. "Can you be the bigger person?" Bigger than what? I didn't ask out loud. Bigger than the law? Bigger than a forged signature? I called her the next morning and kept it short. "I'm handling this. I love you. Please stop engaging online." The day the eviction clock started truly ticking, I felt both cruel and clean. I drove to the house with a stack of boxes and a plan to catalog every room before court. I photographed nail holes and marked them with blue tape like tiny flags. I opened drawers and found lists in Nina's handwriting. Offer, close, move, and felt a small quake in my chest. People make plans inside your life like it's a spare room. I put the list in the evidence folder, then made coffee in my own kitchen and sat at my own table. I wasn't a villain. I was a woman with a deed and a stack of case numbers. The detective called to schedule my interview. "We'll want the original forged POA if you can get it," he said. I laughed once.
They only ever gave me scans. He told me to bring printed copies, my ID, and my timeline. I pictured fluorescent lights again and didn't mind them. Cold rooms can be a mercy when you're ready to stop burning. When I left that afternoon, I locked the new smart lock and watched the log ping. Exit recorded, time-stamped, system armed. Small lines of text proving a boundary existed. On the drive back, my shoulders finally dropped away from my ears. Not because it was over, it wasn't. But because the story had shifted. I wasn't dodging Nina's chaos anymore. I was walking it into rooms where chaos doesn't get to talk first. My life shrank to folders and calendars. Personal becomes procedural. We enter court. I stopped narrating what Nina did and started timing it. Every ping became an entry on a docket I was building for a judge I hadn't met. Maya changed my verbs. Not, she tried to sell my house, but opposing party marketed property without authority. Not, she lied, but material misrepresentation supported by forged instrument. It felt bloodless, which was the point. Nervous systems prefer predictability to poetry. Service of the 30-day notice ripened into the next step. Unlawful detainer. Maya filed the complaint with exhibits stacked like bricks. My deed, the written license with the month-to-month revocable at will clause underlined, screenshots of the fake POA, the title pause, the police case number, and the HOA reversal. A clerk stamped our packet, and suddenly there was a case caption with my last name first. Seeing it typed in that font, on that paper, steadied me. Courts are indifferent. Indifference was mercy. Nina responded through a tenant clinic template, buzzwords about implied tenancy, rent by improvement, retaliation. She attached photos of the candles and the swing chair holes as if puncturing drywall was currency. She added screenshots of my text at setting boundaries and labeled it harassment. Maya barely blinked. "We'll meet them on facts," she said, "not feelings." The date landed at the top of my week like a warning bell. I pressed my suit, printed 3 sets of exhibits, and wrote my testimony as simple strips of truth. Who I am, what I own, what permission I gave, how it ended. I practiced answers out loud until they fit in my mouth without shaking. Mom left another voicemail about working it out privately. I muted it and packed tissues I hoped I wouldn't need. On the morning of the hearing, I ate toast I couldn't taste, kissed the house key on my ring like a talisman, and walked into a
building where grief takes a number and facts get sworn in. Courtroom. Facts versus family. Department 12 smelled like coffee and carpet cleaner. Rows of benches, a raised dais, a clock that ticked too loud, the machine of due process humming on low. Nina sat 2 benches ahead with a legal aid volunteer, eyeliner sharp, jaw set. Mom slipped in behind her, small in a cardigan she reserves for funerals, because that's what she thought this was, a death. Our case was called, and my name filled the room. We stepped to counsel table, Maya on my left, steady as a metronome. The judge glanced at the file, then at us. Unlawful detainer? Possession only? Maya nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Nina's advocate tried to jump in. We're asserting defenses of implied tenancy and rent via improvements. The judge lifted a hand. You'll have your turn. Maya started clean. Owner seeks possession from a licensee who exceeded permission, marketed the property for sale using a forged power of attorney, and refuses to vacate after proper notice. She handed up our exhibit binders like offerings. Exhibit 1 is the grant deed in my client's name. Exhibit 2 is the written license agreement, month to month, revocable at will, no subletting, no alterations. Exhibit 3 is the 30-day notice to quit, properly served. Exhibits 4 through 9 are evidence of unauthorized sale efforts and the forged POA. The judge flipped pages, eyes scanning with practiced boredom that only sharpened when something mattered. Ms., my last name, he said. You're the owner? Yes, Your Honor. Did you ever transfer title to your sister? No, Your Honor. Did you ever accept rent? No. I covered all expenses. She contributed nothing. Why did you allow her to stay? Family, I said, and the word tasted different here. Less excuse, more exhibit. Nina's turn came with theater. She told me it was mine, she said, voice tight but pitched to sound wounded. I made improvements. I landscaped. I staged. She's retaliating because I called her out online. The judge peered over his glasses. Do you have a lease? It was verbal.
Do you have proof of rent paid? I bought candles. I hung a swing chair. The courtroom air thinned around that sentence. Even Mom looked down. Maya's cross was surgical. Ms. Nina's last name. Show me a receipt where you paid utilities. She had autopay. Show me a bank transfer labeled rent. We did family. Show me a text where my client grants you ownership. Nina hesitated. She said I deserved stability. Stability is not title, Maya said, calm as rain. That line rewired something in me. Let's discuss the forged POA. She slid the document toward the judge, then toward Nina. Is this your instrument? Nina clutched her hands. Chad handled paperwork. I trusted professionals. The judge's eyebrow moved half a centimeter. Who signed my name? Maya asked. I don't know, Nina muttered. It was sent to me signed. Did you tell buyers you were the owner? They assumed. Did you correct them? Silence sat down next to her like a witness. Maya called me briefly. I told the story in nouns and dates. On April 3rd, I gave her written permission to stay for 2 months. On June 2nd, I served a 30-day notice to quit. On June 15th, I discovered a pocket listing online. On June 18th, I received a preliminary title report naming my sister as attorney-in-fact under a forged POA. On June 20th, an open house was held. We served cease and desist on site. A purchase agreement surfaced, signed by buyer Jacob with the forged POA attached. Title froze the file. I filed police reports, board complaints, and credit fraud alerts. I have borne all costs. I did not say I cried on the floor. This room didn't care. Maya brought in the notary declaration via affidavit, attesting her seal was cloned. She pointed to the mismatched commission number and the pronoun error in the templated text. We also have an email from the title company's general counsel acknowledging the forged instrument and closing the file. The judge marked it with a blue pen that looked oddly whimsical in his hand. Nina's advocate tried again. Your Honor, there's an equitable argument. She improved the property, creating value. She has community reliance. Evicting her would be undue hardship. The judge leaned back. Counsel, unlawful detainer is summary. Possession only. I don't adjudicate improvements in this posture. If your client believes she has a civil claim, she can file one in the appropriate forum. Today, I determine who has the right to possession. He looked at Nina. And based on this, it isn't you. Then his tone shifted. He tapped the forged POA with his pen once. This is more than a family dispute, he said. If this signature is not your sister's, someone may have criminal exposure. You should both be careful. He turned to Maya. Miss, Maya's last name. Do you seek costs? We do, Your Honor. He nodded. Writ of possession granted. Sheriff Lockout.
Authorized after the statutory period. Cost to plaintiff. The gavel didn't bang. He just said, next case, and our lives lurched forward on a single sentence. Relief can feel like emptiness at first. In the hallway, Mom's eyes were wet, her mouth a thin line. It didn't have to be this, she whispered. It did, I said quietly. It always did. Nina looked through me like glass. You humiliated me, she spat. I swallowed my answer and gave her nothing to burn. Maya squeezed my arm once, a silent, you did it. I exhaled a breath that had been sitting inside my ribs for months. The writ wasn't joy. It was oxygen, and I needed both hands free for what came next. Legal victory doesn't feel like a win, yet. We walked out with a writ, but I didn't float. I felt like I'd traded one ache for a stack of instructions. The hallway air was cooler than the courtroom. My skin didn't get the memo. Mom dabbed her eyes and wouldn't meet mine. Nina texted me a single word, traitor, and blocked me in the same breath. Maya asked if I was okay. I nodded because saying no would make me fall apart. On the drive back, the radio was a buzzing insect. I turned it off and listened to the car. Victory didn't lift. It settled, heavy and square, like a box I had to carry up 3 flights. Possession wasn't peace. It was a key with chores attached. Sheriff, locks, inventory, receipts, repairs. I pulled over at a gas station and ate crackers out of spite because I'd forgotten lunch. Winning is ugly fuel. Motivation by necessity beats motivation by hype. At the house, the ocean looked indifferent, which was merciful.
I unlocked the door and stood in the entry where strangers had stood 2 weeks earlier and took a long breath. The floor didn't hug me back. It just existed, stubborn and mine. I texted the property manager to meet me tomorrow, and I emailed the sheriff to confirm the lockout date. Then I sat at my dining table and wrote a list with square checkboxes, like control could be drawn in pen. Call locksmith, schedule cleaning, document everything, file small claims, help Jacob finish his complaint, ask insurance to reinspect. The list looked like a life I could live. It wasn't joy. It was a map. Cleanup and restitution. Sheriff Day started early. The deputy arrived with a clipboard and a practiced calm that made my pulse slow. We waited the required minutes, knocked, announced. No answer. He looked at me. Ready? I nodded. The locksmith worked with quiet efficiency while the deputy explained the rules. No confrontation. Inventory, anything left. Change locks. Provide a contact for retrieval. The door swung open, and my house was finally my house again, but it looked like a stranger had sighed in every room. I walked with my phone in my hand, camera on, narrating dates and items in a voice I barely recognized. Bedroom, clothes in piles, a suitcase half-zipped, a jewelry tree with 3 cheap hoops, a notebook labeled goals with the word close circled twice. Living room, the swing chair brackets still biting the ceiling. I photographed the holes and measured them for repair. Kitchen, cabinet paint nicked, sticky circles where candles had sweated, a bag of open quinoa like confetti. Bathroom, lashes stuck to the mirror frame like punctuation marks. I bagged what was clearly trash and set aside what might be hers. The deputy signed my inventory sheet while the locksmith rekeyed and installed a reinforced strike plate. We tested the deadbolts like a ritual. The new smart lock chirped, and the app logged the time. I handed the deputy my contact info for retrieval and posted the notice in the window. When he left, the silence changed. It belonged to me again. Repairs became muscle memory. I patched the swing chair holes with mesh and mud, sanded, primed, repainted. I tightened the loose hinge on the hall closet and swapped out a scuffed outlet cover that had always bothered me. I hired a deep clean crew that didn't flinch at glitter in the grout. I took before and after photos and stapled receipts to a copy of my checklist. Every staple felt like a stitch, somatic repair paired with structural repair. I met the property manager on the deck at noon. He walked the rooms with me and took his own photos. "We'll set up bi-weekly checks," he said. "You're done being your own security guard." I handed him the new keys and a streamlined binder. Entry logs, emergency contacts, instructions to preserve any future nonsense. Control wasn't a feeling, it was a system. Systems are self-compassion in advance. Maya urged me to keep the momentum. We filed small claims for damages not covered by the eviction costs. Paint repair, locksmith fees, deep cleaning, the camera upgrade, the property manager's emergency walks. I itemized everything and attached photos like a catalog. I wasn't trying to bankrupt her. I was drawing a boundary with invoices. Jacob texted me a thumbs-up gif I actually liked. Earnest money back. Complaint filed. Landlord rescinded his.
Notice after my statement. He sent me a screenshot. His name next to a case number with Chad's brokerage. "I'm not your enemy," he wrote. "I know," I replied. "You got caught in the blast." He asked if he could use my affidavit for his demand letter. "Absolutely," I said, and sent him a clean copy with exhibits. Then the board's email landed. "Respondent's license is suspended pending investigation." I stared at the sentence like it was a foreign language I could finally read. The brokerage sent me a no admission of guilt apology and confirmed they'd closed out any marketing under my address. They offered mediation again. Maya declined again with a one-sentence reply. "My client has nothing to mediate." Insurance came last, like the coworker who never answers emails until the subject line includes escalation. I scheduled a reinspection and walked the adjuster through the house with my folder under my arm. He crouched at the patched ceiling and nodded, photographed the paint chips, and studied my receipts. A week later, a letter arrived. Coverage reinstated following inspection. Premium increased due to recent activity. I rolled my eyes and paid it. Expensive lesson, still cheaper than naivety. I took a day to breathe and failed at it. My hands kept wanting to do something, so I opened a bank account dedicated to property expenses and set up auto transfers so I could see the money move without mixing it with my rent. I updated my file with permanent fraud alerts and subscribed to a title monitoring service that pings me if anyone sneezes near my parcel number. Security by subscription. Not romantic, but it works. Maya asked if I wanted to pursue restitution beyond small claims. I pictured Nina's face in court again,
the brittle defiance and the hollow behind it. "Let's keep it simple," I said. "Small claims now. If she crosses another line, we scale." Mercy is easier to practice when your doors lock. Boundaries make kindness sustainable. The retrieval day, her chance to pick up what she'd left, was awkward but contained. The deputy stood by while Nina and a friend carried out 2 duffels and a box labeled kitchen. She didn't look at me. I didn't speak. The deputy checked items off the inventory as if he were blessing each object's departure. When she reached the door, she paused and glanced at the patched ceiling, then at the fresh locks. "You always wanted things perfect," she said. "No," I said. "I wanted them safe." She rolled her eyes and left. The door closed. The lock clicked. My shoulders dropped a half-inch. That night, I lit one unscented candle and sat on the floor with my back against the couch. I wasn't trying to reclaim some cinematic peace. I was just letting my nervous system learn the room again. Exposure therapy for a life. I watched the ocean flatten over the horizon and felt something unclench. The house didn't forgive me. Houses don't hold grudges. They just wait for you to decide who gets a key. Before bed, I slid the folder labeled Restitution back into the cabinet and put fresh batteries in the smoke detectors. Then I texted the property manager a final note. "We're stable. Let's keep it that way." He replied with a checkmark emoji and a photo of the sunset from the deck I hadn't stepped onto all week. I put my phone face down. My home was quiet. My boundaries were visible. And for the first time since the door alarm pinged, my sleep found me before the fear did. From damage control to rebuilding trust in myself. The house didn't need another lock. I did. Not a deadbolt. Trust. I'd let Be the Good Sister outrun common sense, and the bill came due in court fees and patched ceilings. Rebuilding meant noticing the small signals I'd trained myself to ignore. I walked the rooms and said out loud what was mine. The deed, the view, the right to say no without an essay. I wrote new rules in a notebook that wasn't evidence. No open-ended favors. Every permission in writing, time limits with teeth. I also wrote softer rules. Check in with the version of me who gets scared she's being selfish when she says stop. I poured her tea. I told her she wasn't cruel. I booked a therapist, 15 minutes from the house, because maintenance isn't just for drywall. I added a calendar reminder to review boundaries the way I review budgets. I called 2 friends I'd avoided during the chaos and told them the truth without humor. They didn't fix it. They sat in it with me. It felt like a floor. Repair is relational, not performative. I stood on the deck at dusk, the ocean flattening to steel, and made one promise I could keep. I won't make myself small to keep the peace that eats me. The house didn't clap. The sky didn't open. But the word mine stopped feeling like an accusation and started feeling like a responsibility I could carry without apologizing for its weight. Family fallout. Boundaries. Rewritten. I asked Mom to meet me at a diner she liked before Dad died, the kind that smells like coffee and butter from the parking lot. She slid into the booth in her funeral cardigan, eyes already damp. For a second, I wanted to backspace the whole thing. I didn't. I took her hand. "I love you," I said. "But love is not logistics. I won't be the safety net anymore." She flinched like the word had edges. "She's your sister," she said. "She needed stability." I kept my voice even. I gave her 2 months. She tried to sell my house with a fake signature. Mom's mouth trembled. "We don't put each other on the street." "We don't put each other in court either," I said. "Here we are." She reached for the story she knows. "It's just a house." I shook my head. "It's my home. And it's not about the structure. It's about boundaries being real." She stared at our hands. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I do," I said. "If you engage with her online or pressure me to undo legal steps, I'll mute you. I won't explain myself in group texts. I'll show up for holidays if we keep topics off the table. If not, I'll leave." "I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting me." She nodded, watery, like agreement was a second language. "Okay," she said. "I'll try." It wasn't a vow. It was enough. My siblings sorted themselves like laundry. My older brother sent a long message about keeping things in the family, and Dad would have handled this. I replied with the court order and a line. I did handle it. He stopped texting. His wife didn't. She called me on her lunch break and said, "You did the right thing. He's just scared of conflict." "I'm allergic to it," I said. We laughed, soft. My younger sister, who moves states like sweaters, sent a heart and a plane emoji and then disappeared for 3 weeks. When she resurfaced, she wrote, "Can we do Christmas at yours?" I wrote back, "Maybe, if everyone can be kind." No heart, no plane. Nina tried an apology by text that read like a dare. I panicked. You made it worse. We could have all won. I put the phone down and waited 30 minutes so I wouldn't write the essay that lives under my tongue. Then I typed, if you're serious about repair, we start with therapy and a repayment plan. Maya will draft terms. No back channels, no social media. You keep my name out of your mouth. Then maybe we talk. 3 bubbles appeared, vanished, reappeared. You're impossible, she sent. Then, blocked. A minute later, her vague book went up. Nothing hurts like family who'd rather see you fail than see you free. The comments offered hugs and knives. Our mutuals, the ones who'd seen the service video, pushed back gently. There's more to the story. She deleted their comments and doubled down. The algorithm loves a martyr. I let it love her without me. I'd wanted rage to recede into relief. What I felt was something cleaner. Space. Not empty. Quiet. I could hear my own thoughts without drafting rebuttals. I updated my estate plan because I like learning from lessons while they're still warm. I added a trust with clear instructions. Who manages? Who doesn't? What happens if anyone uses the word deserve in a sentence with asset? I wrote a letter to my future self and taped it inside the binder. If you're tempted to waive boundaries because grief is loud, read this out loud first. I also made a small kindness list to balance the harshness in my mouth. Check on mom outside of crisis. Help my sister-in-law with her resume. Take my younger sister to breakfast when she's in town and talk.
About art and dogs, not debt. Love isn't logistics, but it's also not punitive silence. It's choosing where your energy goes and being honest about your limits. That's adult attachment with boundaries. The first holiday came fast and sideways. My aunt volunteered her house, neutral ground with a piano nobody plays. I showed up with mashed potatoes and rules in my pocket. Mom hugged me too hard. My brother hovered, then asked about my car instead of my case. My younger sister handed me a dish towel and whispered, "Proud of you," like a contraband secret. Nina didn't come. Her chair sat empty and loudly. Someone made a joke about the ocean view. I laughed exactly once. When dessert plates clinked, Mom reached for my hand under the table. We didn't talk about the house. We talked about the pie. It was a start. Back at my place, I locked the door and stood in the entry until the quiet settled. The moon threw a soft rectangle on the floor. I walked to the window and watched the tide pull away from the shore in one piece. The view returned to mine, not because anyone gave it back, but because I stopped arguing with myself about whether I was allowed to keep it. I am. I was. I will be. I took my phone off silent and changed one more setting. I made a family chat called Logistics and a separate one called Love. The first got the dates, the plans, the who brings what. The second got, saw a dog that looks like Dad's old mutt, and a photo of the sky when it blushes. I didn't invite Nina to either. Maybe one day, maybe never. The boundary isn't the punishment. It's the door frame that keeps the house standing. Peace is designed, not discovered. From closure to final reveal of stakes. Closure felt like a well-made bed, flat, quiet, good enough to rest on, until the phone buzzed at noon on a Tuesday. Tidal monitor alert. My stomach braced before my brain caught up. I'd built systems so I could stop reacting. Systems don't care about timing. The alert previewed 4 words that iced my scalp. New lien submission detected. I stared at the ocean and didn't see it. My hands moved first. Opened the email, read the parcel number, confirmed the match. Maya answered on the second ring, and I heard her chair roll. "Forward it," she said. I did. She whistled once, low. "Predatory lender. They're hanging a debt on you." I said nothing. I'd thought the last chapter ended at a locked door. Turns out, the story had a back window. I pulled the folder labeled fraud, clipped my hair off my neck, and sat down. "Okay," I said. "Let's go again." Resilience is repetition. The lien package was a Frankenstein. My name, my parcel, a debt I'd never seen, and the same rotten signature dressed in a new font. The lender's letterhead screamed urgency. Their math screamed usury. Maya drafted in minutes. Slander of title, demand to withdraw, notice of potential litigation, copies to their general counsel and the county recorder.
I added teeth, my police case number, the title company's prior closure letter, and the notary's declaration. We filed the claim, then called the recorder to flag the instrument before it hit the index. The clerk was kind and tired. "Send me your documents," she said. "I'll annotate the queue." By morning, the lender blinked. An email arrived with manufactured politeness. "In light of materials provided, we are withdrawing our claim. Please accept our apologies." Maya replied with one sentence that tasted like steel. "Confirm withdrawal recorded and confirm you've notified any reporting affiliates." 2 hours later, scanned proofs landed in our inbox. I bought a title insurance rider the same day and set permanent fraud alerts with boring little passwords that would make past me roll her eyes. The HOA, as if belatedly embarrassed, mailed a refund for an assessment they shouldn't have levied after all. It wasn't much. It felt like a bell finally rung on time. At dusk, I stood in my clean kitchen and watched the last orange line fade to gray. Joy didn't rush me. It returned, deliberate, like a tide that keeps its promises when the wind shuts up. The locks are quiet, the windows shine, and the ocean sounds like breathing again. Would you have evicted your own sister, or drawn the line somewhere else? Tell me how you protect boundaries with family and what you've learned the hard way. Subscribe for more long-form dramas, and watch next week's episode on inheritance traps and quiet trusts.